to another episode of the Worth Loving podcast. I'm your host, Keana W. Mitchell, and I am so grateful that you're here with me today. This space is all about helping you build emotionally safe, self-aware, and self-loving relationships, whether you're dating, healing, or rediscovering your worth. This podcast is here to support you with tools that honor your emotional wellness and help you show up in relationships from a grounded, empowered place. Today's episode is one I believe many of us need, especially if you've ever struggled with knowing what's okay and what's not okay, or how to communicate your needs without feeling guilty or too much. We're talking about healthy boundaries in dating, what they look like, why they matter, and how to set them in ways that protect your peace and strengthen your connections. Boundaries are one of the most powerful forms of self-love. They are not about controlling other people. They are not about being difficult or demanding. Boundaries are about honoring your emotional capacity, your needs, and your values. They help you stay connected to yourself while you build connections with someone else. So today, we're going to break down the psychology behind boundaries, the emotional wellness benefits, and practice strategies you can start using right now, today. And later in the episode, we'll also talk about how to navigate boundaries when you're already in a relationship. Because sometimes you don't realize you need a boundary until you're deep into the connection. So we have a lot to get into. But before we do, let's recap last week's episode of the podcast. Last week, we talked about how to spot emotionally unsafe people before you fall for them. And I want to revisit that conversation because it sets the foundation for everything that we're going to talk about today. So in last week's episode, we explored what emotionally safety looks like. We talked about emotional safety, how it's consistent, how it's empathy. Emotional safety is if someone can hold space for your feelings without punishing you for having them. It's someone who communicates clearly, respects your boundaries, and doesn't use manipulation, guilt, or unpredictability to keep you off balance. We also talked about red flags, not the cute tic-tac kind, but the real ones that show up in someone's behavior. Things like emotional inconsistency, defensiveness when you express your needs, lack of accountability, or someone who constantly leaves you guessing about where you stand, whether you're in a relationship or not. These patterns aren't just bad habits. They are indicators that this person may not have the emotional capacity to build a healthy relationship with you. And that's why this matters. And that's why we have today's conversation. Because in the past, I've talked about boundaries, setting them, healthy boundaries, healthy relationships. But I didn't talk about what it looks like to actually set healthy boundaries when you're dating. So we're going to begin the conversation by just saying boundaries are your protection against emotional unsafety. And we mentioned that last week because boundaries help you stay grounded when someone else's behavior is unpredictable. Boundaries help you stay connected to your own worth when someone else struggles to honor it. And boundaries can help you avoid getting pulled into dynamics that drain you emotionally. So as we move into today's topic, keep last week's episode in mind. Recognize unsafe behavior. That's step 1. Setting boundaries is step 2. And together, with these tools together, they can help you build relationships that are safe, supportive, and aligned with your emotional wellness. Before we dive back into today's conversation, I want to take a minute to personally invite you into something very special, into my You Are Worth Loving signature coaching program. This is my 12-week trauma-informed coaching experience designed to help you break unhealthy patterns, rebuild your self-worth, and create emotionally safe relationships that actually feel good for your soul. If you've been listening to the Worth Loving podcast and thinking, I'm ready for deeper support, this is your next step. Inside the program, we work together one-on-one to help you reconnect with your voice, your boundaries, and your confidence so you can stop settling for relationships that drain you and start choosing ones that honor you. I'm only taking 3 clients for the month of May because I honestly want to give each person the time, energy, and care they deserve. So, if you've been waiting for a sign to start your healing journey, this is it. Click the Stand Store link in the show notes to apply or learn more. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are worthy of love, and you are worthy of relationships that feel safe, healthy, and whole. Now, let's get back to today's episode. So let's talk about why boundaries matter so much in dating. Boundaries are not just rules or limits, they are expressions of self respect. They communicate what you need to feel emotionally safe, valued, and connected. And when you set them, you're not pushing people away, you're giving them clarity on what allows healthy relationships to thrive. One of the biggest misconceptions about boundaries is that they are restrictive. But the truth is, boundaries actually create freedom. They give you the freedom to show up authentically without fear of being overwhelmed, disrespected, or emotionally drained. They give your partner the freedom to understand how to love you well. They give the relationship the freedom to grow without confusion or resentment. There's also a difference between walls and boundaries. Walls are fear based, they shut people out. They come from past hurt, past trauma, or experiences where vulnerability wasn't safe. Boundaries are wisdom based, they let people in, but only in ways that honor your emotional capacity. Boundaries help you stay connected to yourself while building connections with someone else. They help you avoid losing your identity in a relationship. And they help you maintain balance between your needs and your partner's needs. And they can help you avoid situations where you're giving more than you're actually receiving. When you don't have boundaries, relationships can feel overwhelming, confusing, or emotionally draining. But when you do have boundaries, relationships feel clearer, safer, and more emotionally aligned. So now that we understand why boundaries matter, let's talk about the psychology behind setting them. Setting boundaries isn't just a communication skill, to be honest. It is a psychological process because it requires self awareness, emotional regulation, and the ability to tolerate discomfort. And for many people, boundaries feel hard because of past experiences, attachment patterns, or fears that were learned long before we reached adulthood. A lot of time, these fears come from childhood. If you have an attachment, if you have an anxious attachment style, boundaries are going to feel scary because your fear of rejection or abandonment is going to make it feel scary. You may worry that expressing your needs will push someone away. If you have avoidant attachment style, boundaries may feel unnecessary because you're used to relying on yourself and keeping emotional distance. If you have secure attachment style, boundaries feel natural because you understand that they protect connection rather than threaten it. Trauma also plays a role, and I know we talked about this before on the podcast, that if you grew up in environments where your needs were ignored, punished, or minimized, you may have learned that boundaries are unsafe. You may have learned to overfunction, overgive, or stay silent to avoid conflict. And when you start setting boundaries as an adult, your nervous system may interpret this as danger, even when it's actually really healthy. So, this is why emotional regulation is so important. Setting boundaries requires you to stay grounded when you're feeling anxious, guilty, or afraid. It requires you to remind yourself that your needs matter. It requires you to tolerate the discomfort of someone else's reaction without abandoning yourself. And here's the truth: healthy people respect boundaries, unhealthy people resist them. So, the way someone responds to your boundaries tells you a lot about their emotional maturity. Understanding the psychology behind boundaries can help you set them with compassion, both for yourself and also for the relationship. So, in all honesty, healthy boundaries do not push people away. They pull the right people closer. They create emotional safety, trust, and mutual respect. They help both partners understand each other's needs, limits, and expectations. And they prevent the emotional exhaustion that appears when one person is giving way more than they can sustain. So when you have boundaries, you are able to communicate clearly. You're able to say what you need without fear. You're able to express discomfort without shutting down. And you're able to stay connected to your emotional wellness even when the relationship is growing or changing. Boundaries also prevent resentment. When you don't communicate your needs, you end up feeling unheard, unseen, or taken for granted, or even taken advantage of, right? But when you do communicate your needs, you give your partner the opportunity to show up for you in a meaningful way. Healthy boundaries also support intimacy. Did you guys know that? Yeah, because they help you feel safe enough to be vulnerable. They help you trust that your partner will respect your emotional limits. And they help you build connections that feel balanced and reciprocal. So, some examples of healthy boundaries in dating include communication expectations, time boundaries. emotional availability boundaries, physical intimacy boundaries, privacy and social media boundaries, and boundaries around conflict and repair. So when both partners honor these boundaries, the relationship becomes a space where both people can grow, heal, and feel emotionally supported. So let's talk about some practical strategies you can use to set healthy boundaries in dating. The first step is self awareness. So here's the thing, you actually cannot set boundaries if you don't know what you need. Spend time reflecting on your values, your emotional capacity, and your non negotiables. And we talked about this in the podcast at the beginning of the year. Ask yourself, what helps me feel safe? What drains me? What do I need to feel connected? Next is clear communication. Boundaries work best when they've been expressed early and clearly. So you don't have to wait until something goes wrong. You can say something like, I need consistent communication to feel connected. I'm not comfortable moving this fast, or I need time to myself to recharge. Using I statements to express your needs without blame can be also very helpful because this keeps the conversation grounded and it can also reduce defensiveness. Consistency is also key. Boundaries lose power when they're not upheld. So if you set a boundary but don't follow through, you teach people that your limits are negotiable. So it's important that you honor your boundaries even when it feels uncomfortable. Another strategy is collaboration. So healthy boundaries aren't demands, they're invitations. So you can say something like this. This is what I need. How can we make this work together? This helps your partner feel included rather than controlled. And finally, remember that boundaries evolve. As relationships grow, your needs may change. And that's okay because boundaries are living tools and not rigid rules. Setting boundaries at the beginning of a dating is one thing, right? But setting boundaries once you're already in a relationship can feel much more vulnerable. You may worry about disrupting the dynamic, hurting your partner's feelings, or creating conflict. But the truth is, it's never too late to advocate for your emotional wellness. When you realize you need a new boundary, start with honesty. You can say something like this. I've been reflecting and I realize I need something different to feel emotionally safe. This isn't about you doing something wrong, it's about me understanding myself better. Explain the purpose of the boundary. People respond better when they understand the why. And I know this is true for me. When I understand why we're doing something, then I do respond a lot better. You might be able to say something like, this helps me stay grounded, or this helps me feel connected, or you could say, this helps me show up as my best self in this relationship. Invite collaboration. Healthy relationships adapt, okay? So you can say something like, how can we make this work together? What adjustments can we both make to feel supported? But prepare for different reactions as well because some partners will be very supportive, but others may feel confused and some may feel defensive. Their reaction doesn't mean your boundary is wrong. It simply means that the relationship is adjusting. If your partner is emotionally mature, they will work with you. If they are emotionally unstable, they may resist. And that resistance is information. Setting boundaries mid relationship is an act of self love. It's a way of honoring your emotional wellness and strengthening the relationship's foundation. Boundaries are one of the most powerful tools for emotional wellness. They can help you protect your peace, your energy, and your emotional stability. They help you stay connected to your worth even when relationships become challenging. And they help you build connections that feel safe, supportive, and align with who you are becoming. When you set boundaries, you are practicing self love. You are telling yourself, my needs matter, my feelings matter, my emotional wellness matters. You are choosing yourself in a world that often teaches you to prioritize everyone else but you. Boundaries reduce anxiety because they create clarity. They reduce emotional overwhelm because they prevent you from overgiving. They increase confidence because they help you trust yourself. And they support healing because they give you space to grow without losing yourself. I want you to remember this. Boundaries are not burdens. They are bridges to healthier relationships. They help you connect with people who respect your emotional capacity, and they help you avoid relationships that drain you. And they help you build love that feels safe, reciprocal, and emotionally aligned. So as you move through dating and relationships, let your boundaries be a reflection of your worth. Let them be a form of self love, a form of self care. Let them be a reminder that you deserve relationships that honor your emotional wellness. Now, before we go to the conclusion of today's episode, I want to introduce our featured song for this week. So, the song we're going to listen to today is called Gotta Let You Go, and it is by our podcast artist and my alter ego, Emery Rose. This song is all about releasing what no longer serves your emotional wellness. It's about choosing yourself even when it's hard. It's about letting go of relationships, patterns, or people who cannot meet you where you are emotionally. And I chose this song for today's episode because boundaries often require letting go. Letting go of old habits, letting go of unhealthy dynamics, and sometimes even letting go of people who cannot honor your emotional needs. So, take a moment, breathe, and let this song speak to your heart. Here is the song, Gotta Let You Go by Emery Rose.
Sitting here fantasizing about what could have been. I thought we had something special, I don't know what happened. I gave you everything that I had, and you threw it all away. You didn't even tell me you wouldn't show up on our wedding day. And now I'm missing you, I don't know what to do. My whole life revolved around you, and now I'm missing you, I don't know what to do. My whole life revolved around you, and I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go, and I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go. You told me something that you knew was a lie, maybe that is why I can't stop crying. You knew all the time you were playing with my heart. I believed the words you said and put all my trust in you. And now I'm missing you, I don't know what to do. My whole life revolved around you, and now I'm missing you, I don't know what to do. My whole life revolved around you, and I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go, and I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go. Things will never be the same as long as you take up the space in my heart and in my life. I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go. I gotta let you go. Things will never be the same as long as you take up that space in my heart and in my life. I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go. Things will never be the same as long as you take up the space. I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go. I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go, I gotta let you, gotta let you go. I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go, I gotta let you go.
And before we move into the conclusion, I want to share a quick promo. If you would like to hear more songs from Emery Rose, all of the songs you've been hearing on the podcast for the month of July are now available on Spotify and all streaming platforms. So just click the link in the show notes to follow Emery Rose on Spotify so that you will have access to every song featured on the podcast this month. As we wrap up today's episode, I want you to take a minute to honor yourself. Boundaries are not always easy, but they are deeply necessary. They protect your emotional wellness, they help you stay connected to your worth, and they help you build relationships that feel safe. Today, we talked about why boundaries matter, the psychology behind setting them, and how they strengthen relationships, and practical strategies that you can start using now. We also talked about navigating boundaries when you're already in a relationship, because growth doesn't stop once you're already committed. You are allowed to evolve, you are allowed to change, and you are allowed to advocate for your emotional needs at any stage in a relationship. So, next week in the podcast, we're going to talk about situationships versus real relationships and how to stop settling for less. We're going to talk about clarity, commitment, and how choosing yourself is the first step toward choosing healthier love. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Thank you for showing up for your emotional wellness. And thank you for choosing relationships that honor your worth. As always, I'm your host, Keana W. Mitchell. This is the Worth Loving Podcast. And remember that you are worth loving. Until next week, have an amazing day and an awesome weekend. Bye bye.
I had to realize that I